This is Mitch, and welcome to the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. I have Dave Essel with us today, and he's changing the way we talk about mindset. He's the new wave of how to present mindset and how to change your thinking so that you can achieve all the things you want to achieve. You know, one of the most important things I caught when I was reading the bio is his book, Focus, Slay Your Goals, was ranked right in the top 100 of the best goal-setting books ever written, right up there next to Dale Carnegie. So when I saw this bio, I said, I got to get this guy on the show because I know so many people out there are being limited by their thoughts, and they don't even know. And you know, there was a long period of time in my life when I didn't know either that I was being limited by my thoughts. And honestly, we are all still always limited by our thoughts. So I'm really happy and proud to announce David Essel. How you doing, David?
Hey, Mitch, great to be on your show. And especially with the background that I found out about you, man, this makes this interview even more powerful. I'm excited.
Well, you know, I always said one of my greatest blessings is that I didn't go to an institute of higher learning. I like to tell everyone I graduated from the KAU. The audience is probably sick and tired of hearing me say that, but you know, I avoided at least 4 years worth of brainwashing of a bunch of dumbasses that aren't teaching you shit, anything. And I don't know. I got myself painted in a corner where if I didn't go out and do my own thing, no one was going to pay me. And I decided, you know, I'm going to go out in the street. If I can't make $15 an hour out in the street, then just shoot me. And the only thing I had to do was not go back, you know, like have enough Lisbon, like to, because people have heard the story before, so I don't want to repeat it, but I believe that this body would figure everything out. You know, if I just had enough water and enough food, which what's the chances I was going to starve in America, you know, downtown San Antonio, I mean, geez, we got enough tacos around here to support the world. For $1, okay? I mean,
right.
So I just said if I cut off everything, then I'd have to figure out how to survive without a boss. And you know, the first months and even the first year was pretty tough. But I figured out how to replace my income pretty fast because the good news was I didn't make any money. You know, so it was easy. Sometimes. Let's say this. Sometimes when you don't make a lot of money, it can be your greatest blessing because it doesn't take a lot to replace the BS in your life because you don't make a lot of money. And
yeah.
So then after that, when I figured out how to make the next $10 per hour increase, I was 100% recipient of that increase.
Right on.
How to make another $50 an hour or another $300 a day or whatever it was, I was 100% recipient of that increase. You know, you look up one day and you're making $800 an hour and you go, you know, not so sure I needed that certificate, you know, and not bashing people that go to college, and I'm not bashing colleges per se, except for there's a lot of people out there that are, I don't know, getting sucked into that stream that maybe don't need to be there.
Now, Mitch, you're 100% correct. As a matter of fact, people that go through and get general degrees, you know, that aren't specific in nature these days in 2019 are really behind the eight ball. They come out with $50, $60, $100, $150,000 in student debt. They have a general liberal arts degree or something that is not really marketable. And then they're suffering because they haven't figured out their passion. They haven't figured out how to even earn money. And they've got this $50,000, $100,000 monkey on their back coming right out of the gate. Now, you know, I think I have to tell you this, you know, I happen to have a lot of schooling, but one of my greatest years of schooling was taking an entrepreneurial course at the University of Boulder or University of Colorado Boulder in 1980. It opened up my mind to, oh my God, and this was early. You know, there weren't a lot of colleges teaching entrepreneurial classes back then. And,
yeah, and David, we know what you were doing in Boulder, Colorado. You weren't, you know, believe me, we know. So we know it opened up your mind, okay?
Yeah, it did. Rocky Mountain High.
No, but let's, first of all, I got excited about the topic and I skipped right over your credentials. Tell the audience a little bit about your credentials, and then, you know, let's don't spend a whole bunch of time on credentials because I've seen them before. We could like take half a show on your credentials.
Well, you know, how about 30 seconds? Is that enough?
Yeah, that's good.
All right. So I'm for the past 30 years, a counselor, a master life coach, and #1 best-selling author. The past 40 years, I've been involved in the world of personal growth full time. And this is my love. It's just like what you do is your love. Like I wouldn't want to do anything other than what I've been doing for 40 years. And I feel pretty blessed with that.
Well, I don't have a lot of students because of the nature of how I want to teach, which is pretty much one-on-one or closely held, you know what I mean? And I'm not subbing it out, and I'm not a millhouse. And the only reason, well, not the only reason, I do it for a lot of reasons, but one of the main reasons I do it is for the emotional high of helping someone change their life and get a handle on it and help them see past wherever it was their vision was at the time, to get past that, to get into the new thing. And like I said, I think we all have to have it. I mean, I have a coach right now and trying to get to the next level where I don't think you ever finish, you don't finish.
No, in 1986, I met my main mentor. His name is Joe Cerulli. Joe was homeless. He became a multi-trillionaire in an industry that people, Mitch, said no one can earn money. And he did it in a town of 150,000 people. He's still there today. He's still making millions of dollars in an industry that people say you'll never make a penny. And that is the health club industry. He is amazing. And what he told me in 1986, when he accepted I would be a mentee of his, is he said, the very first thing you have to do is you have to go out and get involved with mastermind groups, and you need to hire a business coach. Now, this is 1986. And I looked at him and said, well, I'm sure I do need that, but how important is it? And he started laughing and he said, that's why I continue to make the money I make. When I talked to him in 2019, the answer is the same. Just like you and me, Mitch, he has coaches, he has mastermind groups in order to help us keep moving forward, because the brain, let's talk about the brain for a second. The brain's natural default mechanism is negativity.
Absolutely.
Right?
I learned that in a book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maltz, which has now been taken over by a lady named Somers. And if you haven't read that book, please read it, because it was one of the life-changing books because the person that we talk to the most is ourself. So what is ourself? What are we saying to ourselves in our self-talk? And if you really start listening to yourself, it doesn't take long to figure out that you're exactly right. Most of the things we say are negative.
Absolutely. And in his book, Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz talks about that, he was a plastic surgeon, and these people would come in with outrageously large noses or cleft lips or, some real disfigurement. And he would do this magical plastic surgery. And when he took the bandages off and they came back to see him, so many of them would say, I don't see any change at all. And that's what got him thinking, like, wait a second, it's not just the physical world we have to change, it's the mental world as well. Now, sometimes people say, well, why is the default mechanism for the brain negativity? And it goes to a portion of the brain called the amygdala. The amygdala is the fight or flight syndrome. It's what the cavemen had years ago, that everything that moved in the bush was a threat. So that's why, and we still carry that today, that amygdala is still in the middle of your skull, just like in the caveman time, but we don't have the threats they have. But if you leave your mind unattended, it will always go back to, I'm not thin enough, I don't have enough money, my relationship isn't good enough, I don't have a deep enough path with God, or whatever it might be. We start looking at all that isn't working instead of what we have in front of us, Mitch.
Amazing. So let's talk about what's the first steps. Say you're taking stock of yourself. You're not as successful as you want to be, or not successful at all. I mean, let's just say you've got your run-of-the-mill job and you've been kind of doing that for 10, 12 years. What's the first steps? How do you change this? How do you move up the ladder and get some personal satisfaction and get where you're going?
So we say the first step is the first thing in the morning. When you wake up, what we encourage and we write in our best-selling book, Focus, Slay Your Goals, is we say the very first thing in the morning is the most important time to begin to change your mindset. If you get up and you turn on the Weather Channel, the stock market, the news, if you go immediately to Facebook or social media, you're already losing the most important time of the day to change your mindset. So Mitch, what we say in the book is the very first thing you get up should be the time that we're doing journaling, that we're doing our meditation and meditate, we're doing our prayer, we're doing our affirmations, we're doing our visualizations. We're doing things that what we say in our book will account for 20% of massive success. In other words, massive success started in the brain by what we do first thing in the morning, and then it continues or it discontinues by our action steps during the day. But, you know, for every listener out there that doesn't have the life they want, I would say get up the first hour of every day, a minimal of 30 minutes, but the first hour should be reading inspirational quotes, books, autobiographies of successful people. One of my favorite books, and I'm sure that you love this one as well, is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I mean,
absolutely. Another book that changed my life because I was very depressed. Things in my life weren't going the way I was going. My mother picked this book up at a yard sale, of all things, one of the greatest books. She had no idea what she picked up. Right. She said, I've heard, you know, that someone told her about this book while she was in the yard sale, and she begged me to read it. And I was so naive and so dumb, quite frankly. There you go, self-talk again. Look at that I looked her straight in the face and said, what can a book do for me? You know, what's this book going to do for me? And it's funny because I didn't read a lot of books at the time, and it's the book that started me reading because she said, she begged me, just read 10 minutes a day, just read 10 pages. And I could never stop at the 10 pages. And when I got done with that book, I was feeling better about myself because part of the issue I was having, I was brainwashed thinking I didn't have a college degree. My friends are all off, you know, with $80,000 jobs. This is 20 years ago or 50, you know, they're all doing good. I'm not doing anything. I'm you know, I'm a freaking bartender. And that book opened my mind to say that wealth could come from anywhere. And in fact, you may even have a better chance of being successful if you weren't trained in traditional thought, you know, or if you got yourself painted in a corner where you had to do whatever it is you had to do, because again, the human body is the most adaptable thing in the world. And a lot of these people that were kabillionaires in this book couldn't even write. Some of these people couldn't read or write, you know, and I thought,
no, you're 100%. You know what's so wild about that book is that the title is 100% marketing. It's not true. You can think and grow rich because every story in the book is what you just said. Every story of these people with no education, people that can't hear, people that have no job, people that are homeless, that are becoming millionaires because they were willing to do action steps that most of us would never want to do because we want to stay comfortable, Mitch. We don't want to risk. We don't want to fail. We don't want to get rejected.
Hey, let me jump in right here. Another book that I read that you probably haven't heard of and most people haven't heard of that was really big impact on me was Self-Made in America by John McCormick. Have you read that book?
No.
Okay, this guy poses the question, how can immigrants come to the United States and be financially successful within 8, 10, 12 years, and we dummies that are born here on the corner of opportunity and success can live here for 65 years and never, ever get free? And the bottom line was these people recognized the paradise that they were in. They recognized the opportunities before them, and they were willing to sacrifice at way higher levels than we were willing to sacrifice at. And after reading that book, I readjusted my sacrifice level to a much higher bar. And I mean, the only conclusion was, when I got done with that book was, and it was obvious, that the reason why I'm not successful is I have not given up what it takes to get to where those people are. And now that I see it, I'm ready to do it. And I will, and I did it.
And if you know, yesterday I spoke to a seminar for disadvantaged kids, and it was 6th grade through 12th grade. And there, at the very last table that I spoke at, there was a group of athletes, and I asked them how many of them were willing to do whatever it took for as long as it took to achieve their, whether it was financial or athletic gain. You know, and there were several kids at the table that raised their hand. And I said, well, let me tell you a story about Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt, who is the fastest sprinter in the world and wins every freaking gold medal in any event that he enters, was interviewed after the last Olympics. And they said to him, what separates you? Like, how is it that you're able to not only destroy the competition, but dance and sing and have a blast afterwards when everyone else is sullen, or if they win, they're not as exuberant as you. Like, what's going on? And he said, the answer is really simple. He said, every day I do what I don't want to do. He said, it's that simple. He goes, I will do what other people won't even come close to. He said, let me give you an example. I hate mornings. I am not a morning person. At 6 a.m., I'm on the track 6 days a week. He said, I hate lifting weights. At 2 p.m., I'm in the gym lifting weights for several hours every day. He said, but it doesn't end there. At 6 p.m., I'm back on the track for my third workout of the day. He said, now, if you look at the amount of time I put into my craft, I should be #1 in the world. And he said, I don't think people realize that it's a decision you make to do what you'd rather not do that creates success. I thought it was brilliant.
It's like the 10,000 hours,
Yeah.
You got 10,000 hours in,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. To master any craft, right? It's like if you want to master any craft, Mitch, and, I remember I have a story in my book when I started public speaking. One of my other mentors, Richard Gerson, came to me in the early 80s and he said, what's your greatest goal? And I said, I want to be one of the top motivational speakers in the world. He said, okay, go out and speak 200 times this year for free. I said, what do you mean speak 200 times for free? He said, until you're really good, do not ever try to charge people until you're a master at your craft. Mitch, he was so dead on. I went out and spoke 200 times for free. The very next year, I got my first paid gig. It was $200. It was 1986. It was Atlanta, Georgia. I went up. Now, here's the funny thing. They paid me $200, but I had to cover my flight, meals, and hotel.
It costs you to go there.
And so I went. But here's the fascinating thing. When we talk about how many hours it takes to be really good at something, I had spoken 200 times the year before for free. This is my first paid gig, and Dr. Richard Gerson flew to Atlanta to observe my work. So he's sitting in the back of the room, Mitch. It was packed, an hour-and-a-half presentation. People were screaming, standing ovation at the end. I'm signing autographs, blah, blah, blah. I get back to Richard. I said, oh, my God, wasn't that amazing? He said, yeah, you did pretty good. Sit down. I go, pretty good? We had standing ovations, people asking for my autograph. What do you mean pretty good? And he started smiling. And he turns a pad of paper around, Mitch, and he had 122 marks on the paper. He said, what does that mean to you? I said, nothing. I have no idea what those marks are. He said, that's how many times you said the word 122 times in 90 minutes. He said, you have a lot of work to do. And he was right. And I had to go out and do another 100 speeches for free. And then he allowed me to, but then all of a sudden, Mitch, after doing all that, I was on the road for 6 straight years, 40 weeks a year, traveling the world as a motivational speaker, right? So, these theories work. Your attitude will account for 20% of your success. 80% will be all about, are you willing to do what you don't want to do on a daily basis? And if you can master that, you can master financial success.
So we were talking about step 1. It's in the morning. You journal, do your affirmations, read a book, at least a half hour, preferably an hour. Get yourself started on something meaningful or personal and hone in. I guess honing into your core, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Who am I? Figuring out yourself, figuring out what you want to do.
Yeah.
What's the second step?
The second step is to hire an accountability partner that will help you walk through which is the right goal to go after at this time. So many times, Mitch, people will and I'm going to get into the bad side of positive thinking in a second here, but too many times people hear an ad or read an ad on the internet that, join this network marketing group and put 45 minutes in a day and earn an extra $5,000 a month or something ridiculous. It's like, and those things drive me crazy, absolutely crazy. So what you want to do is you want to get an accountability coach, a counselor, someone that has a lot of knowledge and experience that can help you figure out what is step 2. Don't waste your time trying to figure it out on your own. our mindset, and we mentioned this earlier, is so programmed to negativity that if you're right now or with us and you're saying, you know, I'm not appreciative of the work I do, I don't like it, my money isn't where I want to be, you know, we've gotten ourselves into this situation. And as Einstein said, a brain that's troubled is not the place to go to find the solution. And it's really interesting, right? It's like, if you haven't figured out money yet, or you haven't figured out your career, or you haven't figured out whatever your block is, don't waste your time trying to recreate the wheel. There are experts out there that can help you cut in third, half, even maybe 90% of you chasing your tail. They can sit and walk you through it. So number one, get your attitude started to turn around. And then number two, before you waste your time chasing a dream that really isn't for you, it may not match your personality, it may not match what your passions are, you know, get with someone to help you figure that stuff out, and then stay with them so they can hold your feet to the fire to do the daily work we don't necessarily want to do, Mitch.
Yeah, I think you're hitting on all cylinders here, but of course you would. No, when I first started coaching, I was just trying to tell people how I did things, but it became real apparent that a lot of people were blocking themselves. And so, you know, I didn't have near the study in the investment of psychology that you do, but I had to go do something for them, you know, because they were stuck in this place. One of the guys was my partner. He was 25 years old. He's now my partner. He's 32 years old now. We've done, I don't know, 350, 400 houses together in the last 7 years. And it was about raising private money. And he did really good around his family, and he got all their money. But after that, it just kind of dried up. And I said, look, you do really good getting money with your family, but then it just ends there. And you don't even call on anybody else outside your family. And I said, what's with that, you know? And he said a lot of things, and that wasn't true. And I knew it wasn't true, and I let him sit with it for a little while. He wasn't true. And finally I said, you need to figure out why that is, because what you're telling me is not the reason why. And I said, he comes back and he goes, I figured out what the reason is. And sometimes you just have to figure out what the reason, why you're stuck, so you can figure out how to fix it, right? So he goes, I'm 25 years old. I don't even own my own house. Why are these wealthy, elderly, successful people going to give me their money? Why in the hell would they do that, you know? And it was real simple. And it's changed like this. And he started going out and get money. I said, Mike, it's not about you. It's about the deal. Charles Manson should have been able to get this money from prison. It didn't matter how many people he killed. You know, you're going to borrow $50,000 on a $100,000 house, and if you don't pay the man, they're going to get you a $100,000 house. Who cares how old you are? I don't know. What do you say? You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, Mitch, that reminds me of a story of a friend of mine, Ray Higdon, that we tell in our book, Focus, Slay Your Goals. Ray was, it was around 2008 with the big financial crush. He had been flipping houses. He had been making a lot of money. And then when the market crashed, he went down. He lost everything. He was a single dad, 2 kids, and he just found out the bank was taking his house. He was foreclosing on his house. So he called me up and he said, hey, he said, can we meet for an hour? I don't have any money to pay you. And when we meet, can we meet at a restaurant to eat? I'm starving. And I said, absolutely. I love the fact that he was just so upfront, you know? And so we sat down, Mitch, and Ray and I were talking. And at the end of lunch, I looked at him and I said, Ray, I said, listen, you have a lot of energy, man. You've got a lot of passion. I know you're filled with fear right now. If I was a single dad with 2 kids losing my house, I'd be filled with fear too. So let's not take that off the table. Let's just accept that, yeah, that's where you are. I go, but this is what I want you to do. I want you to go home and I want you to find a product that you believe in to sell. The real estate market is not where to put your time and money right now. You just lost everything. So let's find another product because you're a natural born salesman. So this is what happened, Mitch. On the way home, he stopped at a bookstore because a friend of his told him that the answer to his problems was in the book, The Secret. So he bought the book, The Secret. And in the book, The Secret, it says, don't worry about doing work. Just put what you want out into the universe, and the universe must bring you what you say, right? I mean, it's the biggest bunch of crap ever written in the world of personal growth. It really is. I mean, we destroy it all the time. I don't even know who the author is. It's not personal against her. It's just the book is filled with lies. And so he bought the book and it said, don't worry about a thing. Do your vision board, say your affirmations. Well, 30 days later, he calls me. He says, I'm in a worse situation than I was when I saw you. I have now gotten myself even behind the 8 ball, trying to follow this stuff called The Secret. So I said, listen, let's go back to what we talked about, Ray. Find a product. So he found a product, Mitch. Now, here's something interesting. It was in the world of network marketing. So he's trying to sell this product and 30, 60 days go by. He's not selling a damn thing. He can't recruit anyone to come with him. So one of his upline, a very smart person, says, here, this is the only advice I'm going to give you. Go after 20 rejections a day, 5 days a week. Do not stop meeting people, calling people every day until you have 20 no's. When you have 20 no's, you will start to sift through and you'll get some yeses. But don't call me again. Just do what I'm telling you. So now Ray's back is against the wall and he goes, well, I might as well try it. He's dead broke. A year and a half later, he's making $50,000 a month. And now he's making over $1 million a month, doing what other people, Mitch, won't do. Going after those rejections every day to create the business that you really desire. And, you know, he is making a difference in so many people's lives with his story. You know, it's like he didn't have a genetic gift. He didn't have a family backing him. It was his work.
I have a partner. His name is Raymond Braun. We have a loan company, and we loan money to our competitors who happen to find great deals before we do. We only loan like 60 cents on the dollar, but if that's what you need, I'll loan it to you. I introduced him to an MLM, which is, they call them direct marketing companies now because MLM got a bad name. But anyways, and I watched him fly right past me doing something that, like you said, no one else wanted to do. He held a meeting in 6 or 7 towns right around, in San Antonio and around San Antonio every night. And he was there if one person showed up or if 20 people showed up. And he just never stopped. And he does extraordinarily well. Anybody in the right mind would like, and his particular MLM is World Ventures. And so he travels. That's what he's selling.
Oh, sure.
Luxury travel. And there's no inventory. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And his job is to travel and show people how fun it is to go to these really great places for like hardly anything. And, but I did notice, man, the man, just, he and his wife they just put in, they never stopped. They never got down. They just kept going and kept going. And, now there's 25, 28, 30,000 people underneath them. And let's talk about, like, when I started out, and part of the big problem with real estate, and that's a lot of my listeners, Dave, is real estate investor. Yeah. They don't have money, and that's a big mind screw. They think they have to have money, and so we go through all these ways of you don't have to have money. You have to be a professional deal writer-upper. You see, and I put that word writer-upper in the dictionary stuff. And so you just go out and you get a house worth 3X, and you buy it for X and a half. You know what I mean? Or get it under contract. It doesn't matter that you don't have the money as long as you have some time, 30 days, 45 days, because someone with the money is going to partner with you. And so you go around making 50% of this profit instead of 100%, because 50% of something's way better than 100% of nothing. Yeah. And it's still more than you're making usually at a lot of jobs. So then there comes a time when you don't really need, you can decide I don't need partners. However, I have partners my whole life. I have 6 or 7 partners in 6 or 7 different businesses, because businesses need more than just one point of view. Every business I've ever been in, and they're the, the yin and yang, the paperwork guy and the get out in the street guy, and the Harvard, I can talk to the rich people guy, and the guy that can talk to, then there's me, I can walk out in the street and talk to, the gang bangers out there and say, where can I buy a house? And they'll sell me one, I don't know. I just have a way of talking to anybody. But so you get up in the morning, step 1, you journal, you do some affirmations. Number 2, you hire an accountability coach, but for a specific reason, to figure out what the first goal is.
Yeah.
when I'm teaching first goals for my people, it's like, don't worry about becoming a millionaire, a billionaire. Just figure out what your overhead is and get that little amount of money coming into that mailbox, because there's your freedom. Because
Yes.
when you get free, now you're going to be able to spend 365 days a year on you. So let's just worry about making whatever, I call it their freedom number. What's your freedom number? 3,500 a month, 5,000 a month, 6,000? That's the only problem we got right now. You know?
I love it.
And I think you're saying the same thing. You know, when you're trying to figure out what your first goal is, tell me about these first goals. What do they look like?
Well, you know, and this is a really important point. We say to people that when you find that coach, that counselor, the therapist that's going to help you find the pathway to where you're going to make your money, only focus on one massive goal at a time. Like, don't say I'm going to get into real estate and I'm going to get into network marketing, or don't say I'm going to get into personal training and on the side I'm going to do real estate. Choose one really strong area to go after, Mitch, and lock in. You know, and this is and let me tell you the trip up that happens with so many people when they set multiple big goals. And here's you know, the famous statement, multiple streams of income. We'll have people come in and go, okay, I'm ready to make my $1 million a year, which, by the way, gang, is $82,000 a month. There's not a lot of people in this world that have the drive, the knowledge, and the discipline to make $82,000 a month. Is it possible? Yeah. The percentage is this small because most people won't put in the effort. You know, like they'll go hard for 2 months or 6 months selling real estate, buying homes. If things don't work the way they want, all of a sudden they start pulling back. But in our book, we say focus, that you have to get focused. You choose one major goal and you set a time limit. Is it a year? I wouldn't say less than a year. If you have passion for that, I would say at least a minimum of 365 days with a coach or a counselor, that you're doing work 6 days a week to start to create that momentum, Mitch. At the end of the year, if you really do the work and you follow the advice of the expert and it doesn't turn out the way you want, that's okay. Learn from it. If you need to switch horses, but don't do it short of a year.
It's great advice. So just take your own regular schooling. You start out in kindergarten and you can't do anything. And in 10 years, you're reading, writing, doing complicated math. You know, just look at that. And they're not even very good at teaching, you know, and a lot of people that are even there don't even want to be there, and they're still getting it done, you know. So imagine if it was your passion. You know, some people are getting out of that 10 years speaking 2 languages. You know, we all had to take Spanish or something. Now, most of us just got by in that department, but some people really came out speaking 2, you know, by the end of 10 years of education, we're speaking 2 languages and, you know, could read and write. And look at how far you'd come, you know.
It's, you know, it's amazing. Even in 1 year, Mitch, it's amazing what people can accomplish 6 days a week, several hours a day for 365 days in a row. I mean, it doesn't matter if we're talking weight loss, if we're talking making money, if we're talking finding a new career. A year, 6 days a week, several hours a day, that's going to really help you shatter through the mindset. But here's the cool thing. Your action steps will change your mindset long term. Your mind cannot change your mindset long term. So if you rely on your positive thinking to stay up and doing, you know, rah, 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 it's not going to work. You know, because the minute you're not rah, rah, rahing, your brain's going into the negative default mechanism, worry, anxiety, doubt. So right? So the action steps, like with me, with being a public speaker, I could have positively thought my way every day of, I'm going to be a great public speaker. I am a great public speaker. But it wasn't until I did the 200 or 300 presentations for free that I became a great public speaker. But that's a lot of work. That's okay that it's a lot of work. You know, I feel, Mitch, in a lot of areas of our country, we've gotten extremely soft. And because
That's an understatement.
Yeah, you know, because of books like The Law of Attraction and The Secret and all this nonsense that says, you know, you just put your thoughts out and the universe must throw you checks in the mail. As a matter of fact, Dr. Joe Vitale is an acquaintance of mine. He was one of the stars of The Secret. And for years, 27 years, I hosted a nationally syndicated radio talk show. We were on Sirius XM, and I told Joe I wanted to have him on as a guest. And he was great. I love Joe. And we came on, and I go, Joe, there's only one thing I'm not connecting the dots with that you've got to help me with. He said, what's that? I said, in the book, The Secret, it said you were homeless and you imagined checks in the mail and you became a millionaire. I said, like, that's mind blowing. So I want you to tell our 1 million+ listeners right now what that thought was that brought checks in the mail, because it's never worked for me, Joe, and I'm dying to hear it. And Mitch, he started laughing. He goes, David, he goes, let me be honest with you. He goes, that book and that movie left out so much information. A lot of us aren't really happy with that. He said, but here's the truth. I was homeless. I was a positive thinker. I worked for years, 7 days a week, 14 hours a day to make my first $1 million. He said, that's when The Secret found me, after I had put in all these hours and years of work, and all they wanted to focus on was the beginning of my story, that I was homeless and I wanted to be a millionaire. And that just says it all right there, Mitch. Like we until we've gotten soft. When people read those books, they think, oh, this is so great. If, in the law of attraction, it says, if your daily work doesn't feel good, stop doing it. And in our work, we say, if rejection doesn't feel good, keep going after it, because after a while, you won't even recognize the rejection. It's just going to be, okay, next. Okay, next. Let's go to the next person. We won't take it personally. So, I love to dispel the myth. Even though I'm a huge positive thinker and I have been my whole life, I love it. It isn't enough to create the success that you and I are talking about, Mitch.
I saw a poster the other day of a lion, and it says, I knew I was going in the right direction when life became uncomfortable.
Ooh.
Also, I want to share something. I haven't gotten many standing ovations in my life speaking, but I got one time, and so at the end of the talk, someone says, "What's the greatest book you ever read?" And I had this immediate flash. Well, it's the Bible. It was the greatest book ever written. It covered everything, and then the second flash to my mind was, is this appropriate to talk about here? Third flash was, if I deny my God, he'll deny me. So right out of my mouth comes the Bible. It was in split seconds. I says, well, it's obviously the Bible. I said, everyone's been copying it, from The Secret to the whatever. All those principles were written 2,000 years ago. They're natural laws built. The only thing I said, you could call it sending out a message to the universe, but to me, that's just prayer. Now, I said, whether you believe or you don't believe, that's not my issue. But I believe. So when I'm sending that out there, I'm not just sending out to the universe. I believe I'm sending it to the person that created the universe. And that's my meditation. And that's how my affirmation works. But it's useless, like you said, without action. It's very, 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 it may be the only thing left to do, and there may not be any action left to take in some circumstances. But for the most part, you don't take action. How do you expect? Why would you expect anything to happen? What do you deserve if you don't take any action?
Well, and that goes. It's two things pop into my head. First, in the Bible, it says prayer without work is dead. So let's think about that. Prayer without work is dead. That's a huge thing. Back in what you just said, Mitch. It's really, really important. And the other thing is this: in 1996, when I broke away from the positive thinking, law of attraction world, I actually was exposed. I don't know if we have time for the interview. Yeah. Okay. I was interviewing one of the most amazing people that ever walked the earth. He's changed so many millions of lives. He is no longer with us, but him and the Beatles actually brought meditation all over the world. And the guy's name was Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. He's the founder of Transcendental Meditation. In 1988, I went through the course to be able to do the meditation on a daily basis. I found it amazing. In 1996, Maharishi contacted us and said, I'm going to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Transcendental Meditation, and the only media outlet is your show. Do you want me on? I said, oh my gosh, yes. So he could have chosen Larry King, Howard Stern, any big name back then. And we were so honored, Mitch. So he comes on the show and he was just amazing, wiser than wise. And during one of the breaks, he said to me, hey, several times you've mentioned how much you love affirmations. And I said, oh my God, they're my world. And he said, are they your reality? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, when you're saying an affirmation, is it true? Like, is it in your present world? Or are you lying to yourself, hoping it'll be true? So I said, he goes, tell me your favorite affirmation. And this was my favorite affirmation at that time. I am David Essel, a child of God, happy, healthy, and sober today. And he said, is that your favorite one? I go, yes. He said, is it your reality? And Mitch, I lied. And I said, yes, it is. He said, okay, good. He said, keep using it. But he goes, if it's not your reality, just be careful, because he said, you'll be tricking yourself into believing something that isn't true. And what I found at the end of that interview was that I had been lying to myself for 20 years, waking up every day, all excited. I am David Essel, a child of God, happy, healthy, and sober today. And I was a raging alcoholic for 25 plus years. So I had to look in the mirror and say, wait a minute, there's a negative side to positive thinking. When I woke up every day, Mitch, and said I was sober, that made me feel great. It was a complete lie. It was an absolute lie. And it got me going through the day. I'm David Essel, I'm sober, I'm doing great. And at 8 o'clock every night, I started drinking again, right? So I was living out of integrity. So if we're saying affirmations, I am a millionaire, and we're not, we're lying to ourselves. If we're saying I'm a size 6 and we're a size 18, we're lying to ourselves. So the way we've been taught to use affirmations, I shattered in 1996, and we started using realistic affirmations that are exciting and powerful. And we'll talk money here. So a really great financial affirmation for someone that wants to become wealthy would be something like, I am earning $50,000 this year, which will be upgraded to $75,000 in 6 months by doing these action steps on a daily basis. And we combine it now, we make it realistic. We're not going to lie and say I'm earning $82,000 a month, which is $1 million a year, if we're not earning that. But we can get excited saying I'm earning $50,000 in 6 months, it's going to be 75. Or if you're really motivated, you can say in 6 months, it's going to be 100,000. But then you have to say, what am I going to do to make that my reality, so you're not lying to yourself?
That's really big. And because I never, when I was doing my affirmations or whatever, and I never didn't call them affirmations, I didn't even have a word for them. I was just imagining where I wanted to be, because I had read in that book, Psycho-Cybernetics, that if you visualize something enough, that your mind wouldn't let opportunities to achieve it pass you. It would catch when there was times to take action. Like if you're just walking around oblivious saying, I want to be a millionaire, and that's it, then, but if you're dreaming about certain stuff, anyways, you'd catch it. But so I wanted to ask you, this is a personal question.
Sure.
I never had a goal to be a millionaire or any number. My goal was to be better next year, to be better next month, to be better, to one up whatever I'm doing. How can I one up it? How can I improve it? How can I expand it, multiply it? What can I do? And just be aware. I was always just trying to be aware. How do I, if I'm buying one house a month, how do I buy two?
Right.
When I got to 2, it's like, okay, well, is it hard? Can I do 3? Can I do 3 a month? And then just try to figure out. So I kind of worked my way in to 100 houses a year. I mean, it didn't happen overnight. I didn't wake up and say I'm going to do 100 houses. No, I grew into it. I took things around me, and then I noticed when I was stuck, and say, well, I can't do any more right now. I guess, what do I do? How do I get unstuck? When I'm talking to people, says, well, you're going to have to hire somebody, because you're doing all this stuff now that doesn't have anything to do with buying houses. You're caught up in the busyness of everything. And I said, okay. So then I hired a guy, and then all of a sudden I got freed up again, And I don't know. What do you think? I always thought people would kind of scoff that I never had a monetary goal, or I never had that kind of goal. What do you say?
Well, we did something similar that you're doing, Mitch, is that a number of years ago, we came up with a goal of a number of people we wanted to positively lift every day. And we started with 100,000. This was years ago. So
100,000 people? Well, why so small, David?
Okay, well, because it's like, yeah, I know. It's funny. We had never put a number on it, so we decided to put a number. Well, now we're at 2 million people, and it's right on our website. Our mission is to positively lift 2 million people every day through the work that we're doing. And we are. We're on radio and television interviews, just like with you, Mitch, multiple days a week. We have 1,500 YouTube videos on positive thinking, and we have free online courses we give away. So now when we get closer to going past that 2 million, we're going to have to up it again. But that's kind of our philosophy. Instead of getting too hung up on a number of financial value, what can we do regarding service as our goal? So your goal was to do a house a day, let's say, or a house a month to start with. How you can serve people, get people into a home that maybe they couldn't have gotten into on their own. So now we're being of service. And that's what we did. We started out with a tiny number of 100,000. We're up to 2 million. And my goal, I'd love to see in 2 more years for us to be at 3 million a day. And I think we can do it.
It's that's a great point too. Try to have a higher purpose besides just yourself. I mean, the work that you do needs it's really helpful if it has a higher purpose. It's not just about me. I've been I think the way that I approached it in my naivete was just to make sure that it was a win-win in everyone's column, that whatever I was doing, that everybody in the equation had to win. Everyone had to get what they were looking for, you know what I mean? And,
Yes.
and a lot of people fight back against that. Like, I buy houses at steep discounts. I live where there's chaos, and I live where there's major problems, and people are losing houses, and I am buying houses at steep discounts. And people said, well, how do they win? You bought their house at half of what it's worth. I says, you have no idea that the strife that some of these properties cost people, or some of the things that happened in those properties, they don't ever want to go back to it again.
Yeah.
Other times is they're about to get nothing. And if I can get to them before the foreclosure, I can get them $10,000, $15,000. But I gotta get to them before that time clock ticks over. And it doesn't mean that I solved all their problems with that, but I did put some positive in their mark for that property, other than it just vanished in an auction somewhere,
Yeah.
And then, but the big thing for like a lot of people on this call is we're putting people in houses that probably would be relegated to be renters for the rest of their life. And so I wish it was more for a lot of different reasons, but I put 2,400 people in a house that may have never, ever, ever, ever been able to own a house.
Yeah.
Now, and I think we know that a home is one of the biggest financial assets of most people. It's probably their biggest financial asset over
Right.
time. So it's really important. So we got, and I can talk to you all day long, and I will if I'm just going to keep going until you tell me to stop, because
Well, Mitch,
you can't get enough of this. You can't get enough of this stuff.
I love this too. I have a 5 minutes left, just an FYI.
Oh, okay. So you're going to give away a 2-hour video. It's really a course. It's like a $99 value. Focus, ! Slay your goals. And it comes right from the book. So if you guys want to go to reinvestorsummit.com/, let's just say focus, FOCUS. Okay. reinvestorsummit.com/focus. You can get over to your show notes. There'll be links there. There'll be contact information for David Essel. There'll be anything you want over there. But let's just start with reinvestorsummit.com/focus and get over there, get your 2-hour video if this interests you. I want to know about step 3. 1, get up early, do your journaling. 2, find a coach to pick the right goal to start with. What's number 3?
And number 3 is commit a written action plan 6 days a week, multiple hours a day, that is measurable and timelined to achieve your goal. So what we say is, like, if I'm working with real estate agents or even real estate investors, I'll say to them, okay, how are you going to go out and prospect? What are you doing on Monday? For how long? Who are you prospecting? Where are you going? Is it phone calls? Is it in person? In other words, Mitch, we help people get so focused, so super focused, that they know throughout the week exactly what they're doing prospecting wise, what they're doing closing wise. They know everything on Sunday night of what they're doing throughout the week, where they're putting their time, what they're doing. It's not enough to say that I'm going to contact 10 people today or 20 people today. That's not enough. We have to say, I'm going to contact 20 people today, and this is how I'm going to do it. These 10 people I'm calling, these 3 people I'm meeting for coffee, and these 4 people I'm doing this. So I'm emailing, texting, whatever it might be. But we get super specific with What are the tasks? How much time you're doing? You know, when the market crashed, the real estate market crashed around 2008, I got a call from a realtor that was in Florida, and he was his mom or his wife didn't work. He had 2 kids. He was dying on the vine, and he said, "Hey, I'm calling for your advice. Should I switch careers? We're in a recession or depression, whatever you want to call it. I've got to support my family." And so we looked at all the options, and he really didn't have any options, Mitch. So I said, "I'll tell you what, let's do this. I'm going to work with you 5 days a week, 15 minutes a day, so you can afford it, because I know you're almost flat broke. So let's just do 15 minutes. It's going to be 8:45 to 9 o'clock, 5 days a week. Then from 9 to 11 is full out prospecting. We are going after rejection. We're going after, I don't care what happens, right?" Do you know at the end of that year, Mitch, he made more money in the recession, depression, selling real estate than he had in the 3 years prior that were all really good years, right?
He had to adapt and shift to the market. I mean, there was chaos all over the place. You just had to figure out how to manage that chaos to put a dollar in your pocket. You know, it wasn't listing $1 million houses anymore. It was something else. I don't know.
That's right.
But you morphed. That's exactly how, you know, keep more. The guy was an expert. I think it was great advice not to jump ship, because then you have to learn a whole new career. All right, you guys, we got you 1, 2, 3 steps out of this. There's a whole bunch of steps. I hope we got you interested enough. Go over to reinvestorsummit.com/focus, okay? FOCUS, and get you a 2-hour video and more of David Essel. There'll be everything you need to know over in that show notes. David, thank you so much. What's one last word of advice to the people that are struggling out there?
Never give up, and don't do it on your own. Never give up, and don't do it on your own, period.
There you go. There you go. All right, this is Mitch Stephen. Thanks for stopping by to get you some David Essel. I'd like to wish everybody out there is making your goals. reinvestorsummit.com. Please spread the word and check out, I forgot to pay homage here, my sponsor, taxfreefuture.com. Check them out. There's 37 videos over there. You need to know how to invest tax-free or tax-deferred, okay? You won't believe what your financial advisors are not telling you, because they don't get paid if they tell you. You'll go do better and not have to pay them. So we're going to tell you. Go to taxfreefuture.com. All right, you guys, we're out of here. Bye, David. Thank you so much.
Bye, Mitch.